distinguish that. It's a big misconception.
Are there any other questions you might have read?
Yes, I have a question for you, Sheikh. My question is number of wives and treatment of women.
The number of wives the Prophet had?
That's a very good question. I usually get that the treatment of the Prophet ﷺ to women was really bad, and he had many wives, more than 4, or more than, I've heard 20 sometimes.
I heard even 70.
What's the misconception there? What can
the whole thing's a misconception, but let's deal with what the reality is and then compare it to what the misconception is. The reality is Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, didn't have any wives at all till he was 25 years old. So first of all, you want to remove this idea of any kind of sexual proclivity towards something that is, bizarre or anything, because the height of attraction of the opposite sex occurs between the ages of about 13 and 18 in a male. And we know that he never even had a girlfriend. He never had a close, intimate relation with any woman ever until he got married at the age of 25. So this is important for us to know that he did not do what a lot of the people are accusing him of. That's first. Second of all, he was married to Khadija, radiallahu anhu, until she passed away. Now, he was at the age, I think at that time he was about 50 years old.
Okay.
And so how would we imagine that a person that's only had one wife, very happy with her, no problems with her, now all of a sudden is going to go crazy and do stuff? But even if they make this accusation, we can look to the teachings of the Prophet where he's telling us not to do those things, the teachings of the Quran forbidding this, and then the actual reports of so many eyewitnesses. And we know for a fact that after the death of his wife, he was very saddened, and then they offered him marriage to different members of the tribe. And at first he was a bit reluctant, and he accepted one and married her. Later he did accept a proposal from his best friend to marriage to his daughter, which was Aisha. But he didn't accept it right away because she wasn't old enough yet. So this is another big misconception about marriages. Later, when he did marry Aisha, they had the best of relationships, and she only says good about the whole thing, and describes for us even how a man should be intimate with his wife to give the most benefit and satisfaction to both through their lives. It was really beautiful. Then other wives that he did have, some were out of need for the woman. The woman needed somebody to take care of her. One of them was an elder woman whom he never even had intimate relationship with. But because Islam demands for a man and a woman not to be cohabitating together unless they're married, so he married her even though they didn't have any kind of intercourse. And she said, well, my night that I might be due, because by the way, you have to be equal with your wives. She said, let this night go for Aisha, the young girl, because she was still, I think, in her 20s when the Prophet ﷺ passed away. So we see that is a case. Another case is when someone, another tribe or another nation, would offer a woman in marriage to him. If he would have refused, this would have been a huge insult and could have caused a war, could have caused a lot of deaths. And that was the last wife that he had that was given to him from Egypt. So when we compare this, we're able to see something amazing here, that throughout history, women have been used almost like pawns to marry nation to nation. And both sides really, the boy and the girl, being forced to get married to bring together, like throughout Europe, we see that through the kingdoms all the time, even now. So I think that puts it in perspective. Now, as far as the limit on the number of wives, the limit is 4, but you have to treat them all even. Otherwise, you can marry only one. And the only reason the Prophet had more is because this law came after the fact. And then that one wife which was given to him by the nation. And he was told by Allah in the Quran that he could divorce them if he wanted to, but it would be up to them, because it would be such a horrible shame for a woman to say, oh my God, I used to be married to the Prophet, but I got dumped. That would really be, I think, a psychological setback for them. But in any case, that's the only reason he had more than the 4, and it was never about this harem idea of, dancing in the night with the belly dancers and all this kind of stuff. That's really, I'm sorry to say, a very sick approach to dealing with history.
Can you give us a quick summary just before we go to break about, I guess, his treatment overall?
Absolutely. The Prophet ﷺ said, the best of you are the best to your wives.
Yeah.
And I'm the best of you to my wives. He also forbid his followers to beat their wives, which was a custom of the Arabs at the time. You were forbidden to beat them. How do you beat the servants of Allah in the day and then want to go to them at night? That's very clear that he meant by that. Other teachings that he had were that his own wives said he never ever hit them. So this is not just a teaching by the mouth, it's an example, clear. That the most he would do was frown and turn away from them. He would do that, and that was the most that he ever did. But he never struck them.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.